Speaking of LeBron James, LeBron James put out some tweet earlier today because he was basically maligning folks who were saying something about it. I could barely read that tweet right now, but he was basically saying something along the lines of how the media got it all wrong. Because if you remember just a couple of days ago, I was going off about the players, not all, not most, but some, who were taking time off and had abused the privilege. This is what LeBron James said with his tweet. Where are all the media outlets, TV media personalities, hot takes that talk so much, whatever, about Joel Embiid, about missing those games when he knew what he was dealing with? Now he's out with an injury because of it. Not one person has went back on TV or their dumbass podcast and apologized to that man. No accountability. Couple of things. Number one, we saw the shop. Nobody called that a dumbass show. Why don't you watch your mouth? Number two, because it isn't a dumbass show, we're going to give you respect for it, even when we disagree with you, LeBron. Number two, LeBron James, why are you lying? Who talked about Joel Embiid and questioned his injury? Joel Embiid gets drafted number 3 overall years ago and missed the first 2 seasons of his career because of an injury. He's been injured multiple times throughout his career. He's had questionable knees his entire career. What the hell are you talking about? We all know that he has an injury history. He's injury prone. He's the reigning NBA MVP. He got hurt Wednesday night and had been diagnosed with a meniscus injury to his left knee. It was no surprise to anybody what Joel Embiid had been going through. There were people that were saying, damn, you never play in Denver. But somehow, some way you were on the court against Golden State when Kuminga fell on your left knee. What they were making the argument about is that if you could have played in Golden State against the Warriors, then you could have played a couple of games earlier against the reigning defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, since you hadn't played in Denver, which you visit once a year since 2019. So they haven't gotten an opportunity to see Joel Embiid play in person. Nobody was questioning the legitimacy of the injury he suffered. What they were saying is he hadn't suffered that injury until he got fell on by Kuminga during the Warriors game. But prior to that, he was working out pregame in Denver and then was pulled off the court. So tell your facts, new media. Tell your facts. Tell the whole story. And last but not least, it doesn't escape the reality of what we're all saying. We're not talking about people who are injured. We're not talking about people who incur serious injuries and we see it before our very eyes. What we're talking about are people, not necessarily you, LeBron James, but that looked a hell of a lot like you last night in Boston, where you getting ready to play in New York, but somehow, some way, 48 hours earlier, you couldn't play in Boston. That's what we're talking about. Now, again, it doesn't apply to you because you're not that dude. That's not something you do. You play when you can play. Nobody will question or impugn your integrity in that regard. But the reality is, far too many players in the NBA over the years have used days off strictly as rest days. Well, what the hell did you have 4, 5, and 6 months off in the off season for? You know why? Because while LeBron stays ready, most people are spending their off season lollygagging around and not putting in the work. And they start getting ready when training camp opens. And as a result, going up against somebody as great as you, LeBron, they ain't ready. Not health-wise and certainly not conditioning-wise. Are you going to tell that story? Of course you're not. Because that's not what new media does. New media's definition is basically to say, bump old media. We going to do this shit our way. And by that, we'll say what we want to say. We'll spin what we want to spin. And we'll create our own narratives and feign that it's accurate as opposed to it being one-sided. That's right. That's exactly what the hell I said. And I meant it.